Are you struggling with tennis elbow? It can be a tough one. If so, come on over with me. So the quick question that we'll answer, what is tennis elbow? It's basically defined as a tendon issue that arises on the outside of the elbow. It can be inflammation of the tendon, it can be tearing of the tendon, it can be what's called tendinosis, where it's degeneration of the tendon. It is a tendon issue. Now, the complicated thing about tennis elbow, and we'll go into depth on this in another video, is there can be a contribution from the neck or the radial nerve as it runs through the elbow. When dealing with tennis elbow, without a doubt, the number one most important issue is to not let the injury become significant. When you are first experiencing pain, chances are it is probably just inflammation and not actually a tear. But the longer and longer you go on with it and continue to play, continue to be on the court, chances are it's probably leading to actual structural issues with the tendon, and that's when it's harder to get rid of. So the recommendation is what's called relative rest. Means, you're not necessarily laying in bed all day, but you're probably not on a court. You're probably taking a break from putting stress on that elbow as much as possible. Number 2 on the list is to get somewhat consistent cross-friction massages to your elbow. The theory is cross-friction massage can provide blood flow, can potentially break down scar tissue and make the tissue more pliable. Now, to be clear, I'm unaware of any research that significantly demonstrates a huge benefit cross-friction massage compared to normal massage. I also think it's debatable in the research how much you can impact scar tissue with massage, but for sure, massage is helpful, and the recommendation is to do a cross-friction massage, which means the PT, the massage therapist, whomever it is going perpendicular to the tendon. Recommendation number 3 is to put a hot pack on your elbow and spend time stretching it into extension. I would say this particular recommendation isn't extremely robust in research for tennis elbow. This is a little bit anecdotal, but what I have seen is a lot of tennis players will lose full elbow extension range of motion when they are dealing with tennis elbow. This can be a helpful stretch to bring back the full range of motion, which is absolutely important for recovery. The 4th recommendation, and probably most common recommendation, is to do strengthening for those tendons. Now, we're going to spend a little bit of time with this explanation here because I think this is important. The type of strengthening that you do, how much of it you do, and when you do it is extremely important. I'm sure some of you have noticed that when you've done strengthening, you've improved, and some of you have noticed when you've done strengthening, it has gotten worse. So there's a bunch of nuance to this conversation, but I think the first place that I would start is I'm much more likely to do strengthening exercises as an injury progresses past the acute phase. So for example, if I go out on the court and I have elbow pain, I'm not going to go home immediately and start doing wrist extension strengthening. Now, the type of strengthening is also important. What I'm going to show here in this video is eccentric strengthening, which that has an effect on a positive effect on the tendon, I would say. The eccentric part of it means that you are going down slowly when the muscle is lengthening, and then you're coming up quickly. So I usually recommend like a 3-to-1 count, 1, 1, 2, 3, going down. This type of thing seems to have a healing effect for tendons. I think the 2 other things that are important to note with strengthening, number 1, you want to make sure you're doing it the right amount of times per week, and I guess the overall right volume in general. Usually 2 to 3 times a week is about the right amount, meaning you're giving your tendons time to rest throughout the week, so maybe like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type thing. The other thing is how far to push into pain. Again, I'm more likely to push into pain as an injury becomes chronic. I'm less likely to do it when the injury is newer. The The last recommendation we could talk about for hours, I'm going to make it quick. When dealing with tennis elbow, the tricky part is there can be a contribution from the neck, or there can be a contribution coming from the radial nerve, which runs through those wrist extensor tendons. So you'll want to address each of those things. So one of the things that you can do for the neck is to do an exercise called a snag. You can see here in the video, basically you are using your neck muscles to turn your head, but the towel is giving you an increased stretch, kind of an overpressure going each direction. The other thing that is beneficial is to do what are called radial nerve glides or tensions, whatever terminology you'd like to use. I keep it simple and I usually do a tension, but you can do both. You can see here in the video, you're basically taking the radial nerve, sliding it back and forth. Usually this one is pretty comfortable for people, so I would recommend doing this in addition.